Hi there, and firstly, a huge thank you to everybody for coming to this session today. My name is Richard Blundell, and I'm the CEO of Bug Finders. And my rather catchy title is The Simplest Way to Increase Conversions and Maximise Brand Loyalty. There's one word in that title I'd really like to focus on right off the bat, and that's the word simplest. You're not going to hear anything today that's going to blow your mind. You're not going to hear anything today that you perhaps haven't heard before. But I do think we're going to isolate something that has been forgotten by an awful lot of brands and an awful lot of e-commerce and m-commerce organizations right across the world. And that is this. The simplest way to increase conversion rates and maximize brand loyalty is to make sure that your platform works on all the major devices that your customers use. Now, you might find that blindingly obvious, and you may be sitting there saying, well, I'm pretty sure our platform works on every device our customers use, but I can tell you we've been in operation for 6 years now. We've tested on thousands of different mobile devices, and we've tested with hundreds of different major brands across the world. And I can tell you that we've got some really good stats for you. And on average, we put our issues or our bugs at Bug Finders into 3 major pots. Issues on devices that crash the device or cause the customer to go back to looking at the home screen he was at before is the first pot. They call those the crashy bugs. The second pot is what we call the conversion issues. And these are issues that are simply stopping your customers from buying products on your site. And I'm going to show you some really juicy ones halfway through this presentation. And the third part is what we call user experience issues. These are issues that make the products that you sell on the site look really, really poor. And on average, having done all these tests over 6 years, something like 200 different tests, I can tell you on average, most organizations, either in a pre-test environment or live, have something between 10 and 20 issues that cause the site to crash on a customer's device. 10 to 20 issues. The second pot, which is stopping people actually converting the sale and making the sale, you'll often find something around 50 issues. So there are 50 single issues on a site, which mean the customer physically cannot complete that transaction. Either they can't get to the checkout, it's not being added to the basket, or so on and so forth. And in the final area, the user experience area, you'll probably find 150 to 250 bugs, issues, call them what you like, that are preventing the maximizing of the customer experience on your site. Okay? So that's the talk. I can go home. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about it and tell you more about what we do. So listen, I'm not as an experienced digital marketer or a marketeer as you guys are in this auditorium today. So this is a slide which is called Teaching Granny How to Suck Eggs. You've probably seen this slide a few times over the last couple of days. But there is no doubt that the explosion of m-commerce and e-commerce and the traffic on mobile devices and on the personalization technologies such as geo-targeting and the explosion potentially of the Internet of Things are the big 3 issues which most marketeers agree are the technology trends which will be affecting us as we move towards 2020. So that's a teaching granny to suck eggs. There will be an explosion in e-commerce and m-commerce. Why am I making that point? Because concurrent to the explosion in e-commerce and m-commerce is a problem. And that is that IT teams, and particularly testing teams that sit around to test whether these products work or not, are on the decrease, are on the decline. In London, it's now becoming virtually impossible to hire someone to come and be a tester in your organization. It's not something that 16-year-old people wake up and go, I want to be a tester. That's what I really want to do. It's not regarded as a highly exciting job, sadly. So at the same time that e-commerce and m-commerce is on the increase, testing is on the decrease. And I'll show you the result of what happens when that happens in a second. But why is customer experience so important? And again, this is probably my second teaching granny how to suck eggs slide. You guys probably know this already, but a brilliant report produced by KPMG and the Customer Experience Excellence Center plotted the top 100 UX organizations in the UK. These are the companies that, in their opinion, do the best job in terms of customer experience on their platforms. And what they found was remarkable. Those companies that focus most on CX in the UK achieved double the 5-year revenue growth of the FTSE 100. That's double. And of the top 10 who are listed here, those in positions 1 and 10 grew their revenues by £43 million more each year than those placed 11 to 100. So the prize, the financial prize for doing this really, really well is there and is obvious. And these organizations that obsess about how their websites and their web apps look on their customers' devices are doing it phenomenally well. And in America, the situation is exactly the same. The blue box there is the S&P 500 index. The green box are the customer experience leaders, massively outperforming their peers by obsessing about customer experience and user experience on their platforms. So if this is something that organizations take seriously, the pot of gold is there at the end of the rainbow, and that's why we think the simplest way to increase conversion revenues and to increase brand loyalty is to, at the very least, make sure your platform is working on all the devices that your customers use. And I'll talk about it a bit more in a second. So this show is called Millennial 2020. It's all about Generation Z, and I've been to half a dozen presentations today, and I'm yet to see a birthday cake. Why is that important? Because these guys are turning 21 this year. These guys are born in 1995, 1996, and they're just about to turn 21. This is the first generation of people who have had the internet in their lives since the first day they were born. They do not know any other life other than having the internet available. Now, you can probably tell by the wrinkles on my face that I've been around longer than that. And I remember when the internet first came in and you had to wait 15 minutes for a picture of Pamela Anderson to appear or something. So, these are people who have gone through the Facebook generation, Google, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. These people are absolutely bang on the internet bubble. They have an 8-second attention span. Their influences are no longer the family circle and Sunday lunch. Their influences are coming from outside their friends and families. And therefore, as an industry, surely we have to respond to that. They don't have the patience for the device they're operating on not to work. It has to work, and it has to work every time. So let's try and encapsulate the challenges for organizations, knowing that all that is true. I don't need to labor on that point. You guys know this stuff better than I do. So what's the challenge? Well, the latest research shows that e-commerce sales will hit $4 trillion by 2020. $4 trillion. Again, a fact you may not know. But the bit that no one expected in the explosion of m-commerce and e-commerce was the explosion in the number of devices that people would be using. I remember back in the day we talked about iOS apps and Android apps. Now there are something like 300 different mobile devices in the world. And organizations that obsess about their user experience and obsess about their customer experience make sure that their platform works on these devices. But who knew we'd have 300 different sorts, different screen sizes, different resolutions, and so on and so forth. Also, throw into the mix for the hassled IT team, which I hope you guys are working with really closely, is the mere fact that nearly every major brand or e-commerce site is re-platforming right now. They're going from .fr, .us, .uk to .com. One of our leading customers has 72 different platforms that they're trying to re-platform into one right now. So it's equally important to make sure that once that re-platforming done, that the testing's done right to make sure that the device works. And also you'll have shareholders coming up to you guys, I'm guessing a great deal, and saying, this is the year we're going to increase our e-commerce sales. This is the year we're going to increase our brand loyalty. I'm giving you more money for SEO. I'm giving you more money to get our customers to our sites. And I guess the piece of information that always makes me stop and think is why, as an industry, do we spend millions, nay billions, on getting customers to go to our sites and a lot less money making sure those sites actually work? And my contention, and this may be controversial, I don't know, is I'm not sure that many CMOs of the leading e-commerce sites in the world are aware of how big a problem this is, or potentially could be. So this is what it looks like when you don't get it right. Now, the first thing I want to say is these are all platforms we've tested. The second thing I want to say quickly, because I want to hang on to my customers, is they've all been fixed. And so thank you to them for letting us show that. But you can see in the top left-hand corner of the screen, that's an IKEA website showing that the internet has stopped working on the site. Bottom left is a John Lewis site, which has buy now, which is written in plain text, and is not a link, and therefore that person cannot complete that purchase. These are all examples of stuff that will stop an individual from buying a product. And you'll also see this one here, which is, sorry, come out the wrong way, but hopefully you can turn your head. Someone actually in Japan on the Speedo app pressing a button over and over and over again to try and advance the app and getting absolutely nowhere with it. And here's another classic one, real-life video, someone adding an item to their bag, going to checkout. Sorry, there's been an error. So if you're the account manager for that brand, hoping to hit your number or to hit your conversion issues, clearly there's a problem here. And all of those are issues which are either crashing the site or stopping the purchase proceeding. And they're all on leading brands, and they're all found in the last few months. There are also issues which may not stop your customers buying, but may actually put them off buying, or certainly ruin the experience. Top left here was on Boots, where the store locator wasn't working, even though our tester was standing outside the store with the mobile phone testing at the time. Down the bottom left here on the Am Summer site, which we tested on, you could only click and collect. Their postal options weren't working. I don't know whether that could cause embarrassment or not, but that's what we discovered. Top right, B&Q, really highly expensive lawnmowers, and you can see how the images are appearing. And bottom right is Audi, one of our leading customers, who found out that their finance calculator wasn't working, which is annoying when you're spending a lot of money on a car. And then the little video is just of Hunter boots. You can probably see a little flicker come up on the screen, which is the search button coming up, but it doesn't stay up long enough in order to actually search the site, and therefore they couldn't then go on and find the item they were looking for. All have been found, all have been fixed, e-commerce revenues restored. But the contention that we're talking about today is the importance of making sure, of being certain that none of this is happening on your own site to maximize the e-commerce revenues that you can have. What do you do about it? How do you fix it? Well, the key challenge is testing. The key challenge is that budgets have been cut over and over and over again on testing of our websites. And who are we at Bug Finders, and why do we think we have a resolution to this? We have a crowd of 55,000 testers in 145 different countries around the world. There are only about 200 countries, so you can take off the smaller nations and you can see that we have testers in nearly every major country in the world. We're not strong in North Korea right now, but everywhere else we're okay. And because of that, we have a massive breadth of devices we can check on to make sure it's working. And beyond that device coverage, which is the principal reason why organizations use us, we can also test locally. So we can make sure that if someone's on your site in Singapore, that the Singapore banking options work. We can make sure that if someone's on your site in Mongolia, where they have 1G, not 4G, that your site's not so heavy that it won't load because it's got too much on it. It's too slow. That is all part of being certain and making sure that your device operates, your device works. And I'll skip as fast as I can through the advert as much as I possibly can. But why do people use and there's only 3 organizations in the world that do it, why do they use crowdsourced testing businesses? Because they want to get high-speed testing. We do something like 90 man-days of testing in 72 hours due to the size of the crowd we've got. They want to make sure it's working on every device. They want to make sure that the localized options are working. They want to make sure that the usability on the site is excellent. And primarily, they want to make sure that their site is not full of conversion issues and UX issues, which will destroy the brand loyalty that your customer has, having spent so much money getting them there in the first place. Who do we work with? Well, here's the advert. These are the companies we tested for in the last month. I pulled off some stats this morning, which I'll read out for you in terms of the effect it has. We've been working with Superdry now for 3 years, and they have seen a 40% increase in e-commerce revenue. Now, clearly, bug finders are not the only reason their e-commerce revenue has increased, but I think they'd at least say that we've played a significant part. LV, who we work for, the big insurance giant, have seen an 89% increase in smartphone conversions by making sure their site works. And finally, Halfords have seen an increase of 10% in their smartphone sales, which is equivalent to £1 million worth of new revenue, just by making sure the site works. It's that simple. really interesting piece of work to do here actually is to take your total conversion revenue, your total income from a site, and actually break it down into percentage points and look at what 0.01 or 0.1 or 1% increase in e-commerce sales will do to your bottom line. You may well live with these statistics every day, but it's a very good exercise. We're working with Claire's right now. Claire's Accessories, obviously a big American brand, not so big over in the UK. We did a full platform test for them, and one of the first things we found is that their Facebook link didn't work from Facebook into their site. Now, when your audience is 13 to 18-year-old girls looking to buy stuff for parties and holidays and so on and so forth, that's not a great thing to have. However, what we did discover was if we could increase their conversion rate by 0.1%, or for every 0.1% we can increase it by, adds $125,000 to the bottom line. And therefore, it's worth doing. And very quickly, rather than hear it from me, hear it from a peer of yours who we'd love to have had here today, but unfortunately couldn't come, who told us about his experience of operating in this environment.
My name is Anthony Roberts, and I head up the digital team at Audi UK. Well, bug finders play such an important part within the Audi UK digital strategy. What we've been doing there is a lot of infrastructural pieces that absolutely require quality above all else, and the way in which we've guaranteed that quality is to bring in bug finders. The best example of that is with the launch of our e-commerce platform in November 2016. What bug finders did was they took all of the processes involved with testing that piece of software, with the payment functionality, with the checkout funnel, and guaranteed that not only was the usability there, but the quality was absolutely perfect.
We're often asked by people how this actually works. How do we post a project? How do we get it done? Well, it's very, very simple. You give us the URL of the site you'd like us to test, or the app you'd like us to test. We either test it in a pre-production environment, or we test it live, whichever way you would like to do that. It's pushed up to our crowd, and our crowd is always there. They're always available. There are 55,000 of them all around the world. They take a lot of looking after, but they're always there. Projects can load within an hour, and very often we're asked on a Friday to begin a test, which we will do, and we can be back in your office on a Monday morning with the results of that, broken down into 3 areas. Are there any areas that are any things that are crashing your site, anything that's stopping people buying a particular product on your site, or anything that's putting your customers off with a bad UX experience? It's that simple and it's that fast. So I think that's nearly my 20 minutes up. So I wanted to leave a bit of time for any questions if anyone's got any. And if it's too weird to stand in here and ask a question, we can be found just outside the auditorium here on the right-hand side. Do please come and grab us and ask us anything. But has anyone got any questions they'd like me to ask?